Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Ethan Nash. I'm with Nash Consulting. I am a leadership development, organizational development coach, facilitator, consultant, and according to my business card, I'm a CEO. I don't know. It was just kind of handed to me, but that's what my card says. Anyways, welcome. I want to talk to you a bit today about a manager's best friend. Doesn't that sound sweet? And this best friend is systems thinking. Now, we love our dear friend systems thinking because it helps us solve real problems as managers and solve problems in a way that those problems go away. They don't stick around. You know, those pesky problems that you keep trying to solve, you keep intervening, and they keep popping up. Yeah, that's what we call a systems issue. You have a systems problem. And so this best friend helps us not just solve and fix the symptoms, but fix the root cause. Now, in our managing with mind and heart leadership development process, it's a leadership development workshop series. Yes, shameless plug. We train managers in systems thinking using a tool called the waterline model, amongst other systems thinking tools. Systems thinking and the waterline model in general reminds us that it's a lot easier to fix structures and processes than it is to try to fix people. And it's far more effective and sustainable to make thoughtful changes to things in the structure and the process, such as roles, policies, workflows, expectations. Um, Much easier to try to fix those things than it is to try to fix people. And systems thinking in the waterline model also reminds us that what often looks like a person issue, like this person is unmotivated, incompetent, doesn't have the skills, etc., is often a structural issue, a process issue, in a sense, a clarity issue. For example, unclear roles, fuzzy expectations, vague decision-making authority, like who's in charge here, or even, broken or non-existent processes. So when we fix things like those in the structure and within our processes, when we clarify the system in a sense, people tend to show up better. In a sense, people tend to behave better. So systems thinking is really what I consider a manager's superpower. And from what I've experienced in my career and my leadership journey, when I've gone from here are some management tactics and skills to here's how to think like a manager in systems, it drastically elevated my effectiveness and my team's effectiveness, the organization's effectiveness. And I've seen this with many other leaders and managers that we've worked with at Nash Consulting, that I've worked with personally. When we start seeing issues through a systems lens, we're going to be more just, let's say it, awesome at fixing problems, fixing issues. So let's talk about this a bit today. I have a few points I want to cover with you regarding systems thinking, just to give you some, um, basically a framework to walk away with about how you can start just thinking in a system. I'm really giving you principles here because there's no perfect formula for solving problems, but there are principles of systems that we can use. So let's do it. Let's talk about some of these. And by let's talk about some of these, I really mean let me talk without anybody interrupting or contributing to the conversation, because these are my favorite kind of dialogues where it's just a dialogue with myself. I digress. Let's jump back into it. So, principle number one that I want to cover here, that I've already alluded to, is it's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. If there's one thing you're going to take away from this, it's that. In fact, it's so important, I'm going to repeat it. It's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to try to change people. Now, there's plenty of research on this to indicate it, and let's just say that there's anywhere they find that anywhere from, well, taking a step back, when they look at performance issues on a team or with a particular individual within a team, they find that 50 to 70% of the time that performance issue is related to factors within the environment, not necessarily factors within those individuals. Okay, so what I mean by this is when we see problems on our team, in our organization, rather than immediately going to, again, how do we motivate people? What skills do we need to provide people? First, think what is going on in the structure in our processes that might be contributing to these issues, because that is most likely the root cause of the problem. Not always, of course, and there's often kind of multiple variables in creating that problem. But let's remember, let's first look at the structure and the processes. And when we fix things, adjust things, clarify things in those within the structure, there tends to be a trickle down effect, meaning issues that we might be seeing kind of interpersonally, maybe conflict, unhealthy teamwork, or even intrapersonally, right? What I'm seeing with somebody's emotional IQ skills or lack thereof, or behavior that's not helping, those things tend to get resolved because the fixes at the structure trickles down to those levels. So remember this, it's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. And so here's how you might think about this. Let's consider the elements of an organizational or team structure that we might want to look at to tweak, to fix, that could help resolve issues at the interpersonal level or intrapersonal level or individual performance level or team performance level. Okay, so what's in the structure that might need to be clarified? I mean, there's a variety of areas to look. That's why there's no perfect formula here, but it could be, is the goals and strategy clear? For example, if I'm recognizing that people are seeming to get off track, their work isn't really aligning with where we need to go, I might think, okay, they have a skill issue, they're not quite getting it, or it could be that, look, our goals and strategy aren't clear, so people are kind of doing work off in different direction that's not contributing to where we're trying to go. Maybe there's behavioral issues that I'm just like not liking. I'm giving people a lot of feedback. Hey, you know what? The way you're showing up here, how you say things here, it just doesn't sit well with me. Why are these things happening? Look, maybe we need to clarify our values, how we behave here. Other areas in the structure, there could be roles, role clarity, responsibility clarity, task clarity. There could be policies, procedures, processes we need to clarify. There could be documentation that we need. There could be better onboarding, better training. These are all things within the structure that we should look at before we're saying, let's try to fix this person's motivations, for example. So let's take a case study. Let's take an example with this. Let's say there are 6 employees. 3 of them are from an engineering team, 3 of them are from the construction team, and they've been assigned to improve some sort of internal process with each other that's going to affect both of these teams. Now, 5 months into this process, things are not going well. So people are getting territorial with each other. It's kind of the vibe of, hey, this is my area. This is where I should speak into, not you. Okay, there's finger pointing and blame when things aren't working out. Deadlines are getting missed. Meetings aren't really happening, and when they do happen, discussions and decisions just spin around in circles, and we don't actually make any decisions. So the project is getting stalled, frustration is growing, and it's a sad story. Now, what an untrained manager sees here, and by untrained, I mean untrained in systems thinking, what they might see is a group of unmotivated employees who don't know how to work well with each other. And so, you know what we got to do? It's time for a big motivational speech. It's time to maybe even reprimand some people. And you know what? Let's get together for some team building, trust building exercises and do those trust falls that we all know and hate. All right. Now, here's what a systems thinking trained manager asks. What gaps in the structure or processes might be contributing to this issue? I want you to think about that for a moment here. Given this case study, just think of all the possible elements in the structure or processes that could be causing this downstream effect of this team not working well together. Look, obviously there could be a variety of things here that was contributing to this, but it could be everything from are the roles and responsibilities in this cross-departmental team clear? How about decision-making authority? Like who gets to make decisions in this group? What type of decision-making styles are people expected to make? There could also be a sponsorship issue. Is there somebody that has some authority over both of these groups that is making it clear what they need to do and what they're trying to accomplish here? So before I go in and start trying to give this big motivational speech or calling people out, in a sense, I'm asking you all as managers to kind of look in the mirror and say, what can I fix? What's in my control to fix here that could help this group? Because it's really hard to fix people. Now, other elements that could be contributing to this problem that I'm describing to you. I mean, let's look at the group process level. Are there things going on in the group process that's contributing to this? How about information distribution? Do we have a clear information distribution process that people know and understand and expect? Because it might be a problem with people not all having the same or right information. How about meetings? The structure of our meetings. Do we have a clear agenda? Do we know people's roles in these meetings? Again, do we know how decisions are going to be made? Do we come into that meeting with some general common commitments about how we're all expecting each other to show up and behave in these meetings? So there's a variety of areas that could help. Now, we might think, look, we got to train these people in conflict resolution with each other because there's a lot of that type of head-to-head stuff and it's slowing us down. Now, I will say that maybe that might also be a helpful thing to do. But training people in conflict resolution, that is actually a pretty complex skill at the end of the day. So yes, we might touch on that, but again, it's going to be far more effective to fix things in the processes, in the structure before we go there. Now, the last thing I'll add to this point is a clue in which you might see that would indicate that there's probably something going on in the structure or the processes that need to be resolved. And that is you try to resolve the issue, but the problem keeps popping up again and again. And I mentioned this earlier, but I train people in conflict resolution, for example. I train people in teamwork skills. I help an individual improve their relational skills, maybe their emotional IQ skills. Hey, here's how you just got to listen to people better. Here's how you got to be able to receive feedback from people. All right. And so you've intervened at these levels, but the problem keeps popping up. Now, a problem that keeps popping up again and again, despite repeated attempts to solve it, is an indication we have a systems level problem to resolve. All right, this was all about point number one, which is it's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. Point number two, and again, I've alluded to this, but I want to call it out a bit more explicitly. Oftentimes, as a manager, we do need to intervene at multiple levels. And what I mean by this is, yes, we recognize that there's areas within the structure in our processes that we need to tweak, fix, and resolve. However, there still could be things that have to do with the interpersonal relationships or the intrapersonal elements, my skills, my aptitude, my motivation, that I might still try to resolve at the same time that I'm working on the structure. So this is all to say that just because there's something in the structure that needs to be fixed doesn't mean other things, other fixes at the interpersonal or intrapersonal level won't also be useful here. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to take a more kind of comprehensive view at a really kind of tricky issue that you're facing and decide what are maybe all the levels I can intervene at. And to intervene at all those levels as long as it's not going to hurt. And what I mean by that is we need to be careful. If we decide that, you know what, I need to go in and I need to teach this person how to just be a better person. I don't know, right? Like how to show more respect, you know, through active listening skills, etc. All right. I might actually do more damage than good by trying to intervene at that level. Because that might not be the problem. So I'm going to come across as condescending. I'm going to insult a person because I'm going to assume it has to do with their emotional intelligence skills when it might not. So all to say, yes, intervene at multiple levels, but do a careful analysis of what levels I should probably intervene at and which areas here. All right, so this is all point number 2, which is systems problems often takes intervening at multiple levels, which includes the structural level. Because again, if we can fix something at the structural level or the process level, those positive results tend to trickle down to the relationships. And I still might need to help intervene at the relational level in the meantime. With me on that? So, point number 1, easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. So look there first, see what you can do. Point number 2, it is okay and often helpful to intervene at multiple levels. And point number 3, and this is really just technique, is a systems thinking tool called the 5 Why technique. And it is super simple, but it helps us get to the root cause of issues we're seeing. Hey, everybody. Quick interruption here. I have 2 things for you. I have an announcement and I have an ask. First, for the announcement, I wanted to let you know that registration is now open for our signature leadership development workshop series. This is Managing with Mind and Heart. It's the online experience, and if you register, you will be joining thousands of other leaders who have participated in this workshop series. We're talking a skill-focused, practical, human-centered management training, and you'll be participating in it in a cross-industry cohort of other leaders. We would also like to give you, our dear listeners, a gift. So if you'd like to register for this, use the discount code MINDANDHEARTPOD, all spelled out. MINDANDHEARTPOD for 20% off this workshop series. Additionally, just a quick ask, if you appreciate this show, if you get value out of this show and you'd like to support us, the best way you can do so is by subscribing and leaving us a review. This helps other people find the show. All right, that's it. Thank you. The 5 Why technique. When we see an issue, we ask, why is this issue occurring at least 5 times or until we can't ask why any further because we've hit a dead end. It's the 5 Why technique. For example, why are we in meetings that decisions never get made or rarely get made? We have these meetings, we spin around in circles, and we don't come away with a clear decision. Why might that be the case? Well, who's responsible for making the decision? Is that clear? And why is it that we don't have anybody responsible for making the decision? Well, because we've never clarified who should make that decision. And why haven't we clarified who should make that decision? Well, because we're not clear on the decision-making authority within this group. Why are we not clear on the decision-making authority in this group? Because we don't have sponsorship. Meaning we don't have somebody in authority making this clear. And why don't we have sponsorship? I don't know, because we hadn't thought about it before. And why hadn't we thought about it before? I don't know. Okay, we've hit a dead end. So the cause of this might be sponsorship. That's the root cause, perhaps. So we say, all right, let's create some sponsorship. I need a sponsor again, maybe the executive or director of this group coming in and saying, hey, folks, let's figure this out. I need you all to be able to make decisions in these meetings. And therefore, let's talk about kind of who's in charge of making these meetings. Let's assign some accountability for these meetings and these decision making. And by the way, folks, here are 5 different decision-making styles you can use, but ultimately this person over here, she's in charge of deciding what decision-making style is being used and making sure these meetings come to a decision. Okay? So she's in charge of that. And if there's any issues, come back to me. But ultimately, I need you all to make some decisions. So that's an example of how the 5 why technique might work. All right, so let's try this again. Let's take another scenario. Let's say, here's a common one, declining employee engagement scores. So the symptom that we're seeing is employee engagement scores have dropped significantly in the last couple quarters. So we ask, why number one? Why did engagement scores drop? And we say, well, okay, so employees report feeling disconnected from leadership and maybe uninformed about organizational decisions. That's what we discovered through the survey. Okay, so why? Why do employees feel disconnected from leadership? Well, because there's limited communication from leaders, perhaps, about major decisions, priorities, or progress towards goals. And why? Why is there limited communication from leaders? Well, because leadership meetings focus mostly on operational issues. And there's really no established processes or expectation for cascading the information down to the teams. And why? Why is there no established process for cascading communication? Because the organization has never defined what good communication looks like here, right? Or built it into the leader's roles or their expectations or the performance evaluations. Right? Good communication being defined and that actually being measured for our leaders could be a big factor here. And why? Why has communication not been built into leadership roles and expectations? Who knows? Maybe in this case, it is because historically the organization has prioritized technical expertise over people leadership skills when promoting managers. So many leaders don't naturally see communication and transparency as core parts of their job. So what we find here through this type of systems thinking is the root cause isn't leaders aren't good communicators, which is a people problem. We find that it's a structural and cultural issue. There's no system for information flow, no clear role expectations for communication, and a promotion system that values technical skill over leadership skill. Okay, we've gotten to a good place with this. So what is the systemic solution? What are some ideas with this? How about build communication expectations into manager competencies and evaluations? How about create a standardized, I don't know, leadership update process for cascading key messages? Provide or rather redefine promotion criteria to include leadership and communication behaviors. All right, so now we've actually got to sustainable system solutions. And you see if immediately we went to, well, we just need to train managers how to communicate better, this problem might still keep cropping up again and again because we haven't resolved the whole system that's causing the problem. Now, back to my earlier point, we still might want to intervene at multiple levels. Yes, let's actually train managers in best practice communication skills. Let's do that. But let's also work on the structure in the system that's going to ensure that these skills have the best chance of being sustained. Are you with me on this? I sure hope so. So that is all about the 5 why technique. It's a technique to help you kind of get to where in the structure or the group processes might be causing the issue. It helps you drill down to the root cause. So again, point number 1, it's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. And you're probably sick and tired of me saying that. And that's okay. That means I've done my job. Point number 2, yes, intervene at multiple levels as long as it's not going to do harm. So yes, intervene at the structure level, and we can still intervene at the skill level, for example. Number 3 was this 5 why technique that helps you get to where that root cause is. And the last point I'm going to give you here on systems thinking is that we have to remember a key systems principle, and that is systems are resilient. Systems are resilient. Donella Meadows is the late, great pioneer in systems thinking. And she has a book called, I believe it's just called Thinking in Systems or Thinking Systems or something like that. You'll find it, type in the Donella Meadows Systems Thinking. You'll find her book called like a subtitled Primer in Systems Thinking. Anyways, systems are resilient. Okay. And so we have to understand that even when we attempt to resolve things at the structural or group process level, systems have a tendency to, over time, revert back to where it was before. Because the system is created to do that, to get back on track, to create homeostasis. For example, here's an example of systems thinking and resilience. A thermostat. Okay? I have a thermostat set to 60 degrees. Cold air gets into the room, and temporarily the room gets colder than 60 degrees. But then eventually more warm air comes in, and we get back to 60 degrees. The system is working to stay resilient, to stay at that homeostasis. Okay? The same thing can happen when we try to fix organizational problems. Okay? We put in cold air. This is our fix. But because that temperature is set to 60 degrees, that fix doesn't sustain itself. It doesn't work. And I'm not going to speak too much more on this piece, but it's just to call out that it's very difficult to change systems in a sense. And we have to understand that once there are habits formed, because we're talking about human systems at this point, if there are habits, it's hard for humans to break habits. And so just know that it often is not a one and done fix, right? Even if I adjust the process and clarify that process, hey, folks, here's how information needs to flow, right? Here's the process for cascading information out of every meeting. We all might temporarily start doing the things, and then over time, whether intentionally or unintentionally, we revert back to our old ways of doing things because that system was built in, it's a habit, and it's resilient. So as a leader, as a manager, we have to understand we have to keep coming back to that problem that we solved and looking at it again and course corrected when we start to revert back to the old ways of doing things. And it's called sustainability. When we make a fix, we have to keep coming in. We have to keep sponsoring it. We have to keep clarifying the expectation. We have to keep communicating. We have to look at the process. And after people have tried it, we adjust to make it better, right? We figure out what was working with that process, what was not, and we keep moving forward. Because systems are resilient, we have to be resilient when we are solving a systems problem. Those are my 4 points on systems thinking, folks. It's easier to fix structures and processes than it is to fix people. Number 2, Intervene at multiple levels when you have to, because it's often not a one-pronged approach. It can take a multiple-pronged approach. Number 3, use the 5 why technique to help you drill down to the root cause. And number 4, systems are resilient. And so you have to be resilient in your work to solve the system's problems and issues that you're seeing. All right, folks, that's what I got for you. I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked this, give this a like. If you're seeing it in video form on YouTube, give our podcast a review if you enjoy this podcast. And yeah, we'll see you next time.